Well, it's Wednesday, and you all know what that means. As you know, it's been almost 2 weeks when the Elite has made their initial assault. First on Tony Khan 2 weeks ago. Last week, Kenny made his return in his hometown of Winnipeg, and then, of course, was assaulted by the Elite. However, it appears that Kenny Omega made a very interesting announcement, but the real question is, what is the Elite thinking? Well, we don't know. But we do have, of course, the TNT title defended in a no disqualification match. Adam Copeland defends his belt against Brody Lee, and of course, we have plenty other matches as well. But instead of doing other reviews on this particular episode, we're going to be doing a very interesting small discussion. I was holding back on this one for a while, so we're going to be talking about Starlight Kid. As you know, on April 27th, 2024, we saw Starlight Kid was expelled from Oedo Tai. But the real reason is why? Why was she expelled? But all of a sudden, she had an unexpected rescue from someone from her past during her star times, and that is, of course, Tam Nakano. We'll be talking about everything else about this. And then, of course, we cap it up with some news updates, only following on updates with GCW. They have a massive updates on upcoming shows from here all the way to July. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome, everybody, to Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel where we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK, anywhere in the world where pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as, of course, the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also do more news updates. If I'm unable to put it on this episode, I can put it on a separate video by itself. We also do real-timing news updates to keep you guys on alert if anything has happened in the world of pro wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also do the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool things as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us. So click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, all introductions have set aside, I believe it's time to do our only review for this particular episode, and that is, of course, AEW Dynamite. Okay, AEW Dynamite, as you know, they're doing a Canadian tour. Now, first things first, as you know, the location was at Edmond. I like to know one thing. Who was the weenie that goes out saying there was no audience that's going to show up? I mean, they did a pretty good job in Edmond where they were for this particular Dynamite. So whoever he is, I hope he just choke on himself. So that's all I got to say. Now, Dynamite opened up with, of course, with Orange Cassidy versus Trent Beretta. Now, this thing became a bit of a rivalry between both of them. Remember, Trent Beretta turned his back on Orange Cassidy, calling him a narcissist and all this and that. Now, of course, you would think that Trent Beretta would do whatever it takes to win, to prove his point across to everyone, to show what a narcissist Orange Cassidy is. But Orange, who, as probably you can guess, he probably had enough of Trent. He feel like maybe Trent is a lost cause or whatever. But, of course, Don Callis was there. Now, what was intriguing about Don Callis' presence there, when we saw Don Callis watching that parking lot brawl, many of us presume he probably wants Trent Beretta. Now, I'm like thinking, Trent hasn't even acknowledged what the hell is going on here? Have you guys noticed that? He cannot acknowledge the fact that Don Callis is scouting Orange Cassidy. Now, why is he doing that? Well, he said that he feels it's time for Orange Cassidy to step up to the next level. However, this match ended with a very interesting twist. Now, I wouldn't say that Orange Cassidy did it because he wants to, because he knows Trent Beretta will do whatever it takes to win, so he has to play a little bit dirty. So Trent removed the safety on the top turnbuckle, so the Orange Cassidy, he used that into his advantage, rolled up Trent, and after that. And then, of course, Trent completely lost it in the post match, attacking Orange Cassidy. It took only Don Callis and Chris Statlander to calm him down. So basically, Orange may have won the fight, but however, Trent is feeling like, this is not over until he destroys Orange Cassidy. But once again, I keep noticing he's not acknowledging the fact that Don Callis is giving him the attention. He was probably assuming that Don Callis would have acknowledged him. I don't know, but we'll see. Now, as you know, Tony Khan, he is not ready to come back after that brutal TK driver that the Bucks applied to him. They decided to storm in and take Tony Khan's parking spot, you know, and of course that's what they're claiming, that they are in charge. However, we did see here from Kenny Omega, who was in the hospital, not looking good. However, that doesn't mean that he is going to be, how do I say this, sitting down on the sideline with his ass, thinking, oh, he's not going to do a thing about it. So he decided to put up a match to put, of course, the Elite against FTR and two partners of their choosing. But Kenny did say they will reveal themselves later on in the evening. Now, our next interview with Tony Schiavone, we have Serena Deeb, of course. Serena Deeb, as you know, will be facing Toni Storm at Double or Nothing in about 18 days or so. However, Serena Deeb talked about her personal lives, about her seizures that took place about this past year, and all this that. And of course, Toni Storm comes out acting like all high and mighty. The seat doesn't gives a damn about that. But I have to say, Serena Deeb really clobbered nicely. And I'm surprised Luther didn't do a damn thing, because he just let it happen. Now, our next interview, as you know, Lexi talked to OC, giving a medical update. Then he talked to Rocky. Now, Rocky said that he had a match against Jay White, in hopes that if he wins, he gets an opportunity for the trios titles. And I think Rocky was being how do I say this, wishful thinking that maybe this thing between Trent is gonna blow over. But Orange feels like maybe it's too late. That bridge has been crossed. But he said that they'll work something out if he does win it. Now, our next match, we have Mariah May versus Harley Cameron. Now, recently we have been noticing how Saraya and Harley Cameron were calling out Toni Storm and Mariah May. So you would think that this is something else. I mean, I don't know exactly what it is. We know that Toni Storm is going to be busy with Serena, but maybe they're targeting the protege, who maybe they think, oh, she made a mistake siding with Toni Storm. I think that's the main reason. But however, of course, Saraya being there would have been a factor to ensure that this match goes to Harley Cameron, but it did not do any well, because she ended up in the Mayday by Mariah, winning the match. And then, however, Saraya decided to give her a nice beatdown, and of course, we just saw the return of Mina Shirakawa and save the day. I'm sure we're probably going to see those two team up. I think many of us probably would like to see Mariah and Mina team up at Double or Nothing, taking on Saraya and Harley Cameron. That is something to see. As you know, Mina is still going back and forth between here and Japan. I don't know what storylines are building up right now with her, but we'll see. Now, Pac, as you realize, came up short to defeat the Rainmaker for the Continental title. He was so quiet. I don't know. It's like he was in a trance. But of course, the Bullet Club Gold got into his face, saying that he will be the one to take on, of course, Okada to take that Continental title. So we'll see what happens. But I'm sure that's going to be a very interesting matchup. Now, last week we saw what happened with Swerve Strickland. He was brutally attacked by Christian, saying that he will take the belt. He said he hasn't forgotten what he did to him, especially at Wembley Stadium, and to Nick Wayne. And then he said that he's not going to be alone this time, and he brought, of course, the Mogul Embassy. However, things went sideways when the embassy turned on Swerve. And I think this is one of those moments where, of course, Swerve thought he had everything under his grasp, but it did not. But the real question now tells, after that beatdown from the embassy, how's it going to be now at Double or Nothing? I'm sure Christian Cage is happy to watch what he saw. But if I was Swerve, I'm thinking that he's going to have to think outside the box here. So we'll see what happens from here on out from there. Now, as I mentioned before, Double or Nothing is 18 days away. Willow Nightingale, as you know, will defend her TBS title against the CEO, Mercedes Moné. Now, of course, this new rivalry dates back all the way to New Japan, where, of course, Willow injured Mercedes. So now it's kind of like, okay, Mercedes getting payback for what happened. So we'll see what happens until then. So I'm sure many of us are going to stay close to that. Now, our next match, Jay White versus Rocky Romero. Now, this is a long time coming between those two. Remember, those two members, well, Jay White used to be a member of Chaos, and now it's like Rocky gets payback for what happened during that time. But he has to win in order to get a shot of the trios titles. But unfortunately, there were too many factors of this. Don't forget the Ass Boys were in ringside. That would have been is a factor right there. But it was Jay White with the Blade Runner to put him away. And then, of course, Rocky was getting a beatdown. And then the Bastard Pack shows up out of nowhere. I don't know what Pack is thinking, but it's going to be interesting. Now, our next match we have, of course, is Big Bill and Jericho taking on, I believe, a couple of local wrestlers, Mo Jabari and Harlan Abbott. I can tell you this match ended with those two winning. I mean, Chris Jericho applied a Judas effect on Abbott, and just like that, it was won. Then goes out, do a little post-match, acting like he's a babyface. I don't know, but yes. Now, our main event is the TNT title in a no disqualification match. Brody Lee versus, of course, Adam Copeland. Now, this is where this match it went completely insane, brutalized, beaten, whatever weapons they can use. I think that kind of went into that. And there were moments where, of course, Brody Lee is trying to have Adam Copeland step into the dark side. I think that's like kind of like we're seeing that the House of Black are trying to seduce him to join them. I don't know. It feels that way. But nonetheless, Adam Copeland was able to defeat Brody King when he speared him and retained the belt. However, as soon as that happened, we did see, of course, Brody actually attacking him, beating him down, and then Kyle O'Reilly shows up to give him a helping hand. But later we did see that, of course, Kyle O'Reilly was asking that he would like the Cope challenge. So Copeland kind of tells him, is that the reason you saved me, so you can get a shot of this belt? Yeah. So Adam's like, well played. You get a shot next week on Collision. So I think he probably was impressed that he took advantage of it. I think nobody would have thought of that, but we'll see. Now, as you know, as I mentioned before, we will get to Double or Nothing. We are going to see Mercedes take on Willow Nightingale, making her in-ring debut. Of course, many of us have been expecting this for a while, and of course talked about her past and all that, but we'll see where that goes from there. Now, the Elite comes out in the promo talking about Tony Khan, saying the best boss they ever had, but they said that he was standing in the way to make AEW better. Well, they're trying to make better for their own benefit, not the better of pro wrestling. But of course, they talked about Kenny. Then FTR just had enough with them talking. And then, of course, we probably ask ourselves who was going to be the two partners. Well, one of them is the Mad King, who had dealt with them. And then, surprisingly, is Bryan Danielson. But the question does tell, with his appearance, Was he cleared? Well, according to Tony Schiavone, who's been in contact with Tony Khan, just told he's been cleared. So, and then of course, Matt goes, if you put one hand, and bam, it just went into a full-on brawl between the Elite and Team AEW. So we're gonna see what happened in Anarchy in the arena. So from here on out, anything could happen. So we're gonna see who's in fact going to be in control. So we'll see. But as of right now, we end things right now with AEW, and that's pretty much it with all reviews. I believe it's time to do our only discussion for this episode, and that is Starlight Kid. Okay, our only discussion video involving here on this episode, Starlight Kid. On April 27th, 2024, we witness Oedo Tai beating up Starlight Kid, expelling her from the unit. The question is, why? Why did they decide to get rid of her now? It's not the first time we know that Oedo Tai has been kicking out members. It happened last year with Saki Kashima, and now Kid is involved. But the unexpected surprise happened afterwards is who rescued her, and that person was Tam Nakano. Now let's talk back a little bit about Starlight Kid. How did she ended up in this position? If you guys remember back in June of 2021, Starlight Kid was involved in a war with alongside her former teammates, stars that were in a war against Oedo Tai. Now, during that time, stars were involved in two matches involving the last person eliminated joins the winning unit. First, it was Gokigen Death, now goes by Fukigen, and then the saddest moment, Starlight Kid. So that's right. So Starlight Kid was forced to join, and then of course Mayu promised to rescue her, but apparently it was too late. Starlight Kid has embraced the dark side. And of course this resulted her to embrace that, and she hopes that Mayu would side with her, but of course Mayu isn't gonna cut corners, isn't gonna become a heel. That is something that's been clear. But over time, Kid's tenure with Oedo Tai has been highly successful, teaming up with, first manipulating Momo Watanabe to ditch Queen's Quest to join Oedo Tai, which they did. Not to mention teaming up with Momo, forming a tag team known as Black Desire, winning the Goddesses tag titles, and then of course with Kashima, the Artist belt. So there's been major success that she had, not to mention the high speed belt that she has held before, and then of course her goals to win the white belt on many occasions, which she failed to do on that time and time again. So many people probably would have thought that was it. However, we do know she does have a championship title in her midst, which is from the promotion Spark Yoshi Piruso of America as the world champion, I believe. So that kind of sets it in. However, what was the main reason of Kid being expelled? Well, if you think back, Natsuko Tora often said this, that there is no cracks within Oedo Tai. Now, some of you would say, is this true? I would say Natsuko Tora is very, very methodical, but at the same time, she can see things that if will be a problem, they have to take matters in their own hands. She said that something to Kid that kind of fell out of place, and I think she feels that, oh, there's a crack, we need to get rid of it. So I cannot deny Natsuko Tora's genius. This is the main reason why she's successful, to ensure Oedo Tai does not get any cracks. The only way she's going to do that is by get rid of it. And that's exactly what she did. But however, many of us question, was this the reason of kicking her out? Because we did witness Tekla made her return, but at the same time, teaming up with Oedo Tai. Did they kick her out so they can put room for her? I don't know. That's always been a very interesting question. But the one thing we did see was Tam Nakano being the unexpected savior. Now, why Tam made that happen? Well, Tam, according to her, said she couldn't stand seeing Kid getting beat up. But at the same time, when Tam made her return, we've been witnessing her whispering something into her ear. Now, we don't know what she meant by that, but I don't know. But however, she said that she was willing to fight alongside with her, and which was very interesting. But on April 29th, when Tam and Kid were teaming up facing Ruka and Natsuko Tora of Oedo Tai, eventually they couldn't come up with the results. Once again, the beatdown happened by Oedo Tai to Kid, and an unexpected visitor showed up, and that is, of course, Mayu Iwatani. Now, I'm going to say this, but not as a being negative or anything, but more like an observer of storylines. As you know, Mayu Iwatani could not save Starlight Kid or tried to convince her to come back. However, I think, in my opinion, Mayu was basically selfish, naive, and premature to show up now. Now she waited until now that she was kicked out, but there's some things that does make that would make clear for me about it, and I'll explain in a little bit about that. But we did witness on May 3rd, Mayu, Kid, and Tam teamed up. However, Tam did told Kid something. She told her Kid has a right to choose her own path. I feel, and from observing this, that she's not forcing her to join Cosmic Angels, but deciding her, you have a right to choose. I mean, if it's with Cosmic Angels or Return with Stars, whatever you decide, it's your choice. So I think we're noticing during time. Now, I think Kid feels more comfortable knowing that he has people that would watch her back. I mean, she did had the members from Cosmic Angels watching her back with Natsupoi, of course, Sayuri Noi. We did witness Kid cheering up Natsupoi when she was unsuccessful to become the number one contender for the white belt. But we have been witnessed little by little Kid having a smile on her face. But we know that many fans are hoping that Kid would return to Stars. Now, a part of me would think that maybe Kid does not want that for two reasons why. One, what do the current members think now? Let's talk about that a little bit. When Kid was gone, Kid was more like second in command to Mayu Iwatani. But the real question is who is going to be that person next to Mayu. Now, Hanan has been next to Mayu before, but not like to the extent of what Kid had done. That's until Azuki's first appeared. Now, Mayu was in fact hesitant about having her being her second, but it was Takumi Iroha who kind of convinced her you can rely on her. I had that with Rin Kadokura, and of course she took her advice and accepted it. And I think Scott Edwards did indicate that Azuki probably would not be that happy to see Starlight Kid return to Stars. And I don't blame her. I mean, she has every right to, how do I say, to feel that way. Same thing Hana. She even tweeted about that she's now next to Mayu. But Kid doesn't seem too concerned about that. And I ask myself, does Kid has resentment towards Mayu? Like, I'm not talking about their friendship. I'm talking about how things went down afterwards. Now, let's talk a little bit about that. If you remember, I mentioned Mayu did everything in her power to try to save Kid from Oedo Tai, but by that time she took way too long to try to find a way to get her back, and it was too late. I think for Kid, she feels like you weren't there to save me. It took me a month to embrace it. But I think there is one question I think that maybe Kid would ask about. I think she would tell Mayu, where were you? Where were you, Mayu, when I was getting beat up by Oedo Tai? You weren't there to rescue me. The one person who did was Tam Nakano. So that kind of brought me back to a scenario back in the 90s with WCW. Now, if you guys don't know where I'm referring to, let me explain. If you guys remember clearly, those who are about my age or so, or those who know the story, you guys probably know what I'm talking about. NWO were in fact split into two factions. There's, of course, the black and white or the Hollywood faction, and then, of course, the Wolfpack, which is, of course, the black and red NWO. Sting was caught in the middle of this whole thing between both sides. We did witness Lex Luger sided with them and all that. However, there was a problem. He teamed up with Paul White, who at the time was known as the Giant. And the Giant, in fact, sided with the NWO Black and White. So that puts Sting in a very uncomfortable position because we all know, those who are big time Sting fans, especially me, know Sting does not hate the NWO for what they did to him all those years ago, framing him for an attack on Luger. But and then Big Show, of course. But the one surprising happened is apparently he couldn't escape their grasp because they're determined to have him in the ranks. We saw the Scott Hall, who teamed up with Kevin Nash, turned on him, siding with the NWO Black and White, which was very shocking. But Sting had no intentions in turning to siding with the NWO Black and White. Then eventually he made his choice. At first he played the NWO Black and White, then revealed he'd rather be with the Wolfpack. However, there was a little thing. Sting and Paul White were tag champions, so they set up a match where whoever wins will walk away with both belts. But it was Sting who walked away with them when he defeated Paul White. But the real question does tell, who is going to be his tag partner? Now, obvious for those who are big time, lifelong Sting fans and know his tag partner Lex Luger, we all would have assumed Lex Luger was going to be his tag partner. However, that wasn't the case. We didn't know who it was going to be. He didn't pick him. And then surprisingly, on the day of the match, he picked Kevin Nash. Now, I know many people at the time were thinking, why? Why did Sting pick Kevin Nash? Well, here's why. Bobby Heenan made a good observation. Who was it that saved Sting from Paul White? Kevin Nash did. He saved him. It was more like saying, let me repay you by having you be my tag partner. And when I think of that, I think about Starlight Kid and Tam Nakano. You ask yourself, Mayu wasn't there to help her. Tam was. So I think Kid is going to consider joining Cosmic Angels. Not because they're popular or so. I think Kid needs people she can rely on that will have her back. And I think that's important, you know? And I think that's what Kid needs. She needs people to have her back, no matter what. And of course, many of you may question, we know that Tam had some resentment towards Kid, but I think she never blamed Kid for what happened. I think she felt, look, I had enough how things were going with me and Stars. That's why I formed the Cosmic Angels. And maybe Kid will probably see the real truth on why Tam did what she did. It wasn't about, towards Kid. It's like she felt, I had enough of things not going my way in Stars. And I think Kid will probably see that. But of course, as I mentioned, Tam is not forcing her to do anything. But we're seeing Mayu is trying to convince Kid, you're better off with us. It's your home. But I think Kid feels, I don't have a home to go to anymore. I mean, things have changed with Stars since she left. And I think Mayu's being so naive and selfish not to see that. I get she loves Kid like a little sister. I get that whole thing. But having her back in Stars, that's a complicated matter. Now, I'm sure Kid probably would want her position back as probably Mayu's right hand, but unfortunately that position is occupied by Azuki. But I'm sure she will be someone to be relied on in Cosmic Angels. All we gotta do is wait and see. She even mentioned on her X account that she'll be making her decision, and I think many of us are dying to see that. I think many of us think her with Cosmic Angels not will boost up their popularity, but it shows why the Cosmic Angels are one of the most strongest factions. I mean, sure, people say, "Oh, they're too cute." I'm like, no, they're more than that. They show that even they can have the power and will to show them that this is where they belong. But we'll see what Starlight Kid will do. I'm pretty sure. Me as a Cosmic Angel fan, I would say Kid will make the decision based on her own observation, what she wants, rather than having people forcing her. Joining Cosmic Angels would benefit her for A, knowing she will have people's backs, and B, knowing that maybe it's time for her to take a next chapter in her own life to move forward where she wants to go next. So we'll see where that goes. And I think that's pretty much it right now with this discussion. I hope you guys enjoy it. But right now, let's move on with our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. Right now, we're only going to keep you guys updates with GCW. I had some more updates, but I may do that on a separate video um, because my time was running out. I'll explain a little later at the end of this video. As you know, we have the Most Wanted show coming up on the 18th in Philadelphia. They just announced Zilla Fatu will be in action to take on Broski Jimmy. I just hope to murderize him. Then, of course, the following day in Ridgeway Park for the Sunday night special, they just announced more names involving in that particular event. We have the Rich and Powerful, which is that scumbag Charles Mason, and that hosebag Richard Holiday, and that big brute Perro will be there. Then we have Matt Makowski, uh, Cole Radrick, and of course one called Manders. And then, of course, later on in the month, on the 25th of May, we have Take a Picture. It was announced that Mance Warner will be in action taking on Cole Radrick. Now, I'm going to presume that this match is a way of Mance Warner getting a little payback for what Cole Radrick did. If you guys remember, he sided with Effie, and those who were close to Effie must pay the price. Now, for the next day for Paranoid, it was announced that Trish Adora will be in action taking on Haley Dillon. I don't know who she is, but just putting it out there. Now, as you know, more names have been added for the annual tournament of Survival 9 that will take place on the 1st of June. Number 7 has been announced, and this one is, of course, Brandon Kirk. So that's going to be a very impressive well, he's been involved in death matches before, so I can't wait to see it. And then, of course, on the 15th of June, a very interesting match has been announced. I did not see the event, but I saw a clip. We have Viva Van taking on Man Like Dries. Now, some of you may ask me, why is that interesting? If you guys ever saw in the collective, the Joey Janela Spring Break clusterfuck, there was a moment where you saw Viva Van was pulling up her little trousers, showing her nice, beautiful butt. And then, of course, Mandaries is like being all horny and stuff. And then, of course, Viva Van turned around, he played dead. And then when he saw it, he was getting so happy and excited for Viva Van doing that. But, of course, someone had to spoil it for him, and that person is Fuego. So this is going to be an interesting match. I mean, Viva Van thinks it's interesting, but I don't know exactly how this is going to be. But if I know as a wrestling fan, there's gonna be some fun moments in this one, so I can guarantee that. Now, of course, on following day after Hit 'Em Up, I Can't Feel My Face on the 16th of June. It was announced Masha Slamovich will be in action to take on Smiley Kylie Ray. Yep, she's back. And then, of course, they announced for another new show, but this one is in Toronto, Canada. They have Worst Behavior, and this will take place on the 15th of July. So that's pretty much it for all of our GCW updates and for everything else. So as of this moment, I think we are done with all of it. So let's just call it a day. Well, I hope everybody enjoys this episode. First things first, I want to apologize to people. If you're probably wondering why was the last episode delayed, the truth to be told, there was some things that were going on in my personal life. I was unable to do that. Just to make this this story short as possible. Um, my parents were planning to get rid of the cable from our television in the house. We decided to go with a little interesting way to get internet, but a way where we can watch television. Basically, installing it wasn't the problem. Downloading was, so it took a bit of my time trying to fix it up. I'm the only. They told me it was easy to install. That took a bit of my time. I was unable to uh, release the video as soon as possible, but I got it done. But however, time was running out for me. I decided at a last minute change. I decided, you know what? Let's just do Dynamite and of course the discussion. Of course, with the news updates with GCW, I do had more, but I may do that in a separate video. But we'll see what happens from here on out. Um, for the next episode, of course, we have TNA and Ring of Honor, so we're definitely going to be paying attention towards that. Not sure yet if I will be doing another review, but we'll see what happens before it. There's a lot of wrestling going to be happening, some events that I definitely want to see. The much recent Tokyo Show Pro Wrestling, and I just recently found out the latest Marvelous show. So I'm looking forward to those, but we'll see how that will go from here on out. At the moment, we'll just end things like this and move forward. So as of right now, I will see you guys in the next DWZ time, same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So goodbye, and have a nice day. Bang.